Tech leaders are funding war crimes. Today I'm going to talk about what this means, what can we do about it, the patterns that I've been seeing and I've been noticing among tech leaders and average people and members of society, and what can we do to rectify this, right? So first of all, what do I mean by the tech leader? I'm not talking about the billionaire CEOs like Palantir and OpenAI and all that stuff. I'm talking about the average normal human being who has not so normal, because who is normal and what is normal, right? The average human being or above average who has a high paying job in a company, in a tech company, in or working as a freelancer or has his own agency or software development house, dev house, or a founder of a company or a successful founder of a startup, of a SaaS startup, anywhere you are in this journey, you are considered a tech leader or an aspiring tech leader. And certain choices that you make are actually funding the wars and the genocide that are taking place in the world right now. So, how does this work? So I've been noticing a pattern where I talk to people. There's kind of two groups of people, right? Especially in Lebanon or maybe even in certain corners of the West as well. When they talk about the world events and what's happening right now, you have two camps. You have a camp that says, "Oh well, it is what it is. This is what's happening, and what can we do about it?" Right? Like we don't have control about it. I'm just a human being trying to get on with my life, and ain't nothing I can do about it. Okay. And the other camp is those, well paid, well funded developers who will say, or tech leaders who will say, "Oh, I don't do politics." And so either on both camps, the reasons might be either because you simply don't care, like just want to focus on your own life, your own, what's happening in your life, and then the second reason might be because you're afraid. You're afraid Big Brother is watching. You can't talk about it. You can't talk politics inside your job and with your colleagues or online because Big Brother is watching. Someone might see your post. Someone might say, "Oh, this person has controversial views or something." So there's this fear. How do I know this? Because I used to be both of those people. I used to say, I don't care about politics. And also, sometimes I'm afraid to say certain things because I know I'm in a surveillance censorship state. Everyone's watching, my job is watching, my boss is watching. You can't say what you think. So I can sympathize with that idea, right? But the problem is when you continue and accept to live in the state, you're making a choice of ignorance. You're making a choice to bury your head in the sand, and you just like you ain't gonna ask any questions. You're not seeking the truth. Now this is okay if it means it's been okay up until now, but I'll tell you why it's not okay moving forward. The reason why it's not okay moving forward is because things are changing. The world is changing, and it is time. We are seeing a time when conflict and war is coming to the front door of each person in the world. Really, you can see prices already rising right now because of what's happening in the Middle East, because the economical structure is changing. Prices are going up. There's risks of supply chains being suffocated. There's been a ceasefire. There is talks about ceasefire, but the economical warfare is still taking place in the Middle East, and I'm not on the very optimistic side. I'm more of a cautious optimistic side where I believe there's a bigger conflict coming, and this is going to continue, and we need to be prepared for that. We need to be ready for this. So this ain't over. Basically, this is not over, and I do believe there's World War III coming. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to happen sooner or later. And this has been, what happened with Iran has been like a warning sign and kind of a wake up call. It's been, at least for me, because up until the war started, I was always saying like I don't do politics and I don't want to talk about this. So now this is coming and knocking on every person's door. It's impacting everyone. So what does this mean? Like, why, Jay? Why are you telling me this? So the battle that's really happening right now is why is this important for you to know? It's because I'll give you an example. Look at the indigenous Palestinian people. Okay, be with the Palestinian cause or against it. I don't care. I don't care about your stance when it comes to the Palestinian people. All right. If we are objectively considering the story of the Palestinian people, they were living indigenously in their land up until World War One. Between World War One and World War Two, they were there in that region, right? And then, this is documented. Like, you can watch any number of documentaries about this. I'm not going to go into the historical specifics. I'm just giving an example as an idea. So those people were living in that land relatively peacefully. Like, they had no idea what's going on. 700K or 1 million people living in that land, relative peace, everyone co-living with each other, Jews and Muslims and Christians. They were there, right? Before the creation of the state of Israel. And what happened is, those people had no idea what was going on behind closed doors, right? There was the Balfour Agreement. There was the British with Americans or their allies at the time. They were sitting down, they were making agreements like, hey, we're going to create the state of Israel, and we want to start a nation for the Jewish people and all that. So there was this conversation happening, and the Palestinian people did not know about it, right? So the thing is, those people, in a way, their head was buried in the sand. They had no idea. Not to a fault of their own. It's because they didn't have the means. Like, they didn't live in a technologically advanced world like we live in right now. So they know that, hey, someone is colluding behind closed doors to take our land and create a country for a different people in this land, right? So that's what actually happened. So there was a deal behind closed doors that resulted in the migration of 700,000 or more people. It's called the Nakba, who had to leave their land so that the state of Israel is created, right? So objectively, that's what happened historically, and those people were impacted by this event. They couldn't do anything about it. Why could they not do anything about it? Because their heads were buried in the sand. Because of the circumstances of time, they had no idea what the events are, and they didn't know what was happening. So, what can we learn from that experience, right? What can we learn from this experience? We learn that ignorance, whether chosen or indirect or unconscious or conscious ignorance, is dangerous, and it can be lethal as well. It's not only dangerous, but it's lethal. So we live in a time where it's a continuous battle against ignorance, and there's a lot more need right now for critical thinking than ever, because the lines are being blurred. We don't know what the truth is. There's two voices always. Like, this person has got a narrative, and this other person has a narrative, and so there's so many different opposing views. You don't know what's the truth. So how do you know what the truth is? You adapt a critical thinking mindset, and you always ask questions. Without adapting a certain opinion, without investigating where that opinion came from and whether or not there's a political agenda or narrative that's being pushed behind that opinion. And that's why now the battle is against our consciousness and our critical thinking, so we can become more aware and ask the more difficult questions. And the choice to say, I don't do politics, or this ain't my thing. I don't talk about this. This is a choice to bury your head in the sand. And that means that the more people make a decision like that, the more they are going to be impacted by what's happening in the world without knowing what the hell is going on. And this is why the duty and the burden is on the people, the tech leaders like us, to go out and start asking the right questions and seek the truth so we can embody that truth. Because when you seek truth, you embody that truth. And when you embody truth, the truth starts to propagate like a wave, and that's how things start to improve. So instead of sitting here and saying, oh, it's not fair, a different country is going through war and look at people dying. Why are people dying in 2026? I know, it's absurd, right? It's because people like you are not making any decision about it. They're not making any internal decision to say like, hey, this is wrong and I want to talk about it. And it doesn't mean you go out and you cuss out any country or any government. It just means that you become a critical thinker and say, look, I know what's going on and I know the truth, and I'm going to embody this truth wherever I go. You're not expected to go and talk politics in the office, but just the mere act of seeking the truth makes you a critical thinker. And what happens is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So being a critical thinker makes you a courageous person who's always a proponent of the truth. And when you start to see that maybe in your job, there's like a big brother type environment that sedates you with a constant salary, but at the price of your freedom of speech, that you can't talk. And I'm not even talking about politics, like anything, that you want to talk about, you can't do it because you're in this, kind of matrix type job. You start to realize that, well, hey, maybe I have control over this. I can snap out of this and I can live a life on my own terms and speak up and express my mind and have true freedom of speech and have true sovereignty as well. Because now we're in a time where the meaning of wealth is being redefined. The meaning of purpose is being redefined. What does it mean to be wealthy? What does it mean to be well paid? A lot of people are being let go from their jobs, so job security is an illusion. Money is changing. The meaning of the dollar and the petrodollar are being redefined. So money is an illusion because money is an actual construct that we created so we can understand the world and transact in the world. So we're in a time where everything's being redefined, and the only way that you can meaningfully contribute to this change and be an actual player in this and play it to your own benefit is by knowing what the hell is really going on and how truly how the world really works, and what is happening behind closed doors. And that's really what it means to become a critical thinker who asks the tough questions, who talks about the tough subjects that other people wanna avoid. And so you don't have to face your adversary head on, but just merely by starting to ask questions and question things, that's how you start embodying that truth seeker with critical thinker mentality. And this is gonna educate and inspire people around you to do the same. And that's how the world changes, because when enough people do this, you're going to start to see that, oh well, people are getting into power, into politics, who think the same that I think, who are critical thinkers, who care more about the truth than anything else. And anything that is not true or not aligned with their own integrity, they would die rather than live a life of lies, and that is not aligned with their integrity. When you have people like this in power who are able to actually do something about it, that's when you know true change is happening. But the only way this could happen is when enough people embody those traits and those values, so that the working class and the contributing people to the economy start to all think this way and then get into politics so they can actually make a difference.